In this video we are going to take a closer look at the fast attack battlefield role of a Deathwatch army and how to best include them in 9th edition. With our army of renown, are they even still worth considering outside of the kill teams? Over the course of the video, we will go through all the datasheets available and take a look at where they have made an appearance in successful competitive lists as of late. In the final part, I will offer my personal conclusions, including the recent edition of the Armor of Contempt rule and a quick wrap-up.
Welcome to SwissHammer, your channel for modeling in Warhammer 40k. My name is Tammer, and I will be guiding you through this video.
When it comes to list building, the Deathwatch has the huge advantage of the kill teams counting as troops. As a result, the other battlefield roles tend to be less crowded when compared to other Space Marine chapters. The commonly used Battalion Detachment allows up to 3 fast attack choices, while the Patrol or even Vanguard Detachment allows up to 2 of them. So which ones are worth bringing along then? Starting with the Inceptors, these are flying Gravis units with an impressive movement of 10. Over the course of 9th edition, they underwent several points changes, which now looks as following. The base model cost is 40 points, with the Assault Bolter loadout being free. 2 Assault 3 guns with strength 5, -1 AP and damage 1 for that amount of points is in fact very affordable. However, a bit less fortunate was the Plasma Exterminator loadout, which now costs 10 points per gun, making the Plasma Inceptors end up at 60 points per model, which is on the pricey end of things. Against Horde-style armies in particular, the Plasma Exterminators are devastating with their D3 shots per gun and blast ability, meaning that you will get 6 guaranteed shots when targeting a unit with 6+ models, thanks to the blast rules of 9th edition. While we are at it, a word on supercharging the plasma guns for an extra point of strength and damage, with the risk of killing the model on an unmodified hit roll of 1. The chance of killing an Inceptor without access to rerolls with 2d3 attacks is roughly 56%, which is brutal at 60 points per model. In contrast, the chance to kill an Inceptor with rerolling 1s is only 12%, meaning that if you are planning to supercharge the Plasma Inceptors, hit rerolls are pretty much mandatory. In addition to this, I also recommend rolling separate for each model, because with this many shots per gun, a single Inceptor might blow himself up multiple times. If you are rolling all the dice at once, you couldn't tell which individual Inceptor rolled each one, and therefore risk wiping out your whole squad faster than the opponent could ever hope to do so. With the introduction of the Army of Renown, Inceptors have fallen a bit out of fashion. In most competitive lists, only a single Bolter Inceptor is included as part of an Indomitor kill team for access to the fallback and shoot stratagem unique to the Deathwatch, but aside from that, the kill team is filled up with aggressors instead. For more details on why the aggressors are picked over the Inceptors, feel free to check out my aggressors review linked in the description. With the introduction of Armor of Contempt for power armored factions, there might be a shift from aggressors to Plasma Inceptors again in the future, but at this point this is not clear and it does not change the harsh price tag. Outside of the Army of Renown, I think there is still a case to be made for a squad of 5 Bolter Inceptors as a comparably cheap unit you can Deepstrike in, and then combined with the Brotherhood of Veteran stratagem for access to exploding 6s from Imperial Fists or equivalents. A more detailed review on the Inceptors is also linked in the description. Moving on to the Invader ATV squad, which was the bane of early 9th edition, with the Apothecary being able to resurrect them. This has since been FAQ'd, and with that ATVs rarely see play outside of some chapter-specific gimmick, which does not apply to Deathwatch. You can include between 1 and 3 in a single squad, and for an extra 5 points, they can replace their Onslaught Gatling cannon with a multi-melt. Overall, ATVs have little synergy within Deathwatch, they don't have core, and with that miss out on most buffs and or the dominant sieges for access to an invul save, and they also don't benefit from being part of kill teams, such as the regular buy. A case can perhaps be made that Deathwatch does not get direct access to attack bikes, to which we will get later on in the video, so the Invader ATV could be picked instead for a lack of alternatives. Still, unless you particularly like the model, I don't recommend including them at this point. Moving on to the regular land speeders that can be found in the Space Marine Codex, here we have 3 different datasheets: the land speeders, the land speeder tornadoes, and the land speeder typhoons. The base profile of these is pretty similar, with the regular land speeders gaining 2 inches extra movement, while the other variants basically just pack more guns. For all of them, a squad can hold between 1 and 3. Not dissimilar to the previously covered Invader ATV, they lack core and don't have any particular synergy with Deathwatch, aside from being a potential attack bike replacement. Between all these, taking a regular land speeder upgraded with a multi-melta at 70 points seems the most sensible choice to me. What is also worth mentioning is that the regular land speeder has the data link telemetry ability. At the start of your shooting phase, select one enemy unit that is within 18 inches of and visible to the land speeder. Until the end of the phase, each time a friendly whirlwind model makes an attack with a weapon that has the blast ability against a selected unit, add 1 to that attack's hit roll. Given that regular Deathwatch lists sometimes include whirlwinds for access to the Fight Last stratagem, this could be useful in case it comes up. Moving on to the storm speeders, which are the beefier primaries versions of the regular land speeders, which come in 3 variants: Hailstrike, Hammerstrike and Thunderstrike. Very similar to the Gladiator tank, the different storm speeders are basically the same base model with a bunch of different weapon options, ranging from anti-infantry to anti-tank, with different points costs attached. I think in many ways their absence from competitive play can also be best compared to the Gladiator tank. Even though GW continues to drop their points through chapter approved releases, they don't have core, they don't have nowhere near enough survivability for their points, which is a general vehicle problem outside of dreadnoughts for Space Marines at this point, and as such they are left on the shelf. Personally, I keep hoping that they will get further points decreases, or GW finally looks into the vehicle problem itself, as I think it's a decent enough model, and just like with the Gladiator tank, I would love to actually play one. If you are of similar mindset, and perhaps play a non-Army of Renown list in a more casual setting, I would totally bring one along. Then we have the Veteran Bike Squad, which is most famous in the Deathwatch for their inclusion into the Proteus kill team, where they become Obsec and also get the Infantry keyword while they are mixed with Infantry. I have done a full video on these, link is in the description. For the purposes of this video, there are 2 things I want to highlight. First, they don't have the core keyword when they are taken as a Veteran Bike Squad, which is odd as the regular Space Marine bikers get it, and the same applies of course when they are part of a kill team. Second, the Veteran Bike Squad is the only way for Deathwatch to include a single attack bike per Veteran Bike Squad, but this is totally not worth it, as it defeats the purpose of getting a cheap and fast multi-melta on wheels. As such, whenever you are taking Veteran Bike Squads, always take them as part of a Proteus kill team, no exceptions. Speaking of bikes, we then have the Outrider squad, which is the Primaris version of the bikes, and very similar to the Veteran bikes. The Outriders can be taken as part of the Fortis kill team, where they get the same Obsec and Infantry benefits. Looking back to early 9th edition, Fortis kill teams with 5 Outriders counted among the most hyped Deathwatch units, save for perhaps Eradicators, and people went as far as suggesting running 3 Fortis kill teams with 5 Outriders each. Since then, a few FAQs happened, Outriders are up at 50 points each, and with Intercessors being average in a Deathwatch army on top of that, such a Fortis kill team just cannot compare to a Proteus kill team doing the same and more. One case that could be made for a Fortis kill team with 5 Outriders is playing them in the Army of Renown and playing them as a break of 10 models in combination with the Specialism Extremis stratagem, which allows them to get a ton of attacks when charging thanks to their devastating charge ability. Purely from a competitive perspective, The more veteran players are sticking to Indomitor kill teams and Costello-style Proteus kill teams instead though. Then last but certainly not least for the regular Space Marine Codex datasheets, we have the Suppressor squad, which for me is the only fast attack entry outside of kill teams that I think is worth consideration in a regular Deathwatch list. At 100 points for a unit of 3, they are the cheapest Deepstrike options available, they are pretty fast and have decent guns with a special ability to turn off Overwatch. I have done a whole video on these, link is in the description. Two things that bother me about them though. The first is that I think they should have been included as part of the Fortis kill team, giving them access to a jump pack unit and with that the fall back and shoot stratagem. If that were the case, I would always bring one. The second is that GW still didn't manage to give them their own kit, meaning you will have to buy either the underwhelming Combat Patrol Space Marines or the discontinued Start Collecting Vanguard, or find them on auction sites and similar. Truly a shame, they are cool models as far as I'm concerned. And finally, we also have 3 Forgeworld entries, one is the Deathstorm Drop Pod, and the other 2 are the Javelin Attack Speeder and the Land Speeder Tempest. The former is basically a drop pod with guns instead of cargo, and the latter are more speeder variants with different loadouts. Over the course of 9th edition, I don't recall having seen any appearances of these in competitive play, and until the speeders in particular get a general overhaul, I don't think that it's worth looking into these. All in all, I would conclude these datasheet reviews by saying that the fast attack battlefield role for Deathwatch is for the time being a bit in an odd position. None of the datasheets also available to kill teams are currently better on their own, and the non-kill team, and as such non-Army of Renown datasheets, don't offer anything major to Deathwatch that would warrant abandoning the Army of Renown just for these. But in case you happen to play a non-Army of Renown list anyway, I think Suppressors in particular, or also Bolter Inceptors as their own squad are worth looking into. As an attack bike replacement, the regular land speeders with multi-melta for 70 points per model could also be interesting. If you are going for more casual play, I would also consider one of the storm speeders, which have seen yet another points drop in Chapter Approved 2022. The addition of the Armor of Contempt rule for power armored factions is certainly one more reason to give these speeders a try, but personally I think that Armor of Contempt is not enough to solve the survivability issues of non-dreadnought vehicles, and the recent balanced status slate itself has boosted the Army of Renown even more, meaning that abandoning it for datasheets that are alright but not outstanding is too big of a price to pay. From a purely competitive perspective, sticking to the Army of Renown and using a single Bolter Inceptor as part of an Indomitor kill team, as well as the veteran Bikers as part of the Proteus kill team, is where you're getting the most benefits from. Outriders in a Fortis kill team can also be an option. Plasma Inceptors might see a comeback too, but they remain pricey either way. To wrap things up, over the course of the video, we have looked at the fast attack battlefield role, which includes the Inceptors, the Invader ATV, various speeders and bikes, the Suppressors, as well as a bunch of underwhelming Forgeworld models. Out of these, what stands out for me personally are Inceptors and veteran Bikers as part of their kill teams, which are the by far most competitive picks for the time being. When going for the pricey Plasma Inceptors, keep in mind that you always want those rerolls when overcharging. Following behind are the Outriders, which are still okay in a Fortis kill team under the right circumstances, but quite overpriced for what they do. Outside of the Army of Renown, I like Suppressors in particular, and could totally see regular land speeders as an attack bike replacement, and perhaps the storm speeders in less competitive matchups. Points drops as well as Armor of Contempt on the latter has certainly bumped it enough to be playable. Speaking of attack bikes, a bit of an oddball is the veteran bike squad, which gets no core keyword when taken as its own squad, but unlocks the option to take a single attack bike. Totally not worth it, but funny nonetheless. So that's it for the fast attack battlefield role in the Deathwatch. Which one of these have you been playing yourself? And do you think any of them are worth abandoning the army of renown for? Have I been doing injustice to any of the datasheets? Let me know in the comments. Finally, I would also like to mention that there is a SwissHammer Facebook page where I will be posting links to my videos as well as articles I find of interest. I do read a lot about the hobby, but not all of it will always end up as its own video. I look forward to seeing you there as well. I do also have a Patreon page. If you like my content, any additional support is greatly appreciated as it helps me invest into future videos. As always, thank you very much for watching, guys. Your continued support is greatly appreciated. I hope you have been enjoying this video. Give me a thumbs up if you did, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thanks again and see you next time.